Ladies and gentlemen, it is time! Everfest is upon us, and now we finally get to do something instead of waiting for those cards to be actually in our hands. We can do some testing, right? This is Nicker from OnlyFabs, and we are preparing for the Proquest season. So it's mostly classic constructed. Now I'm a bit of a Kasai fan, but I'll leave it be and focus on OTK Viserai. Now what can we expect for this meta? And I want to give some tips out for testing. And a free tip at the start, read the release notes. Please don't think what you do what the card does, but know what the card does. And I cannot stress this enough because there will be enough mistakes made with thinking you know what an interaction does or your opponent does, but actually not knowing them or being wrong. Which is okay, but do research, girls and boys. What to expect? Now we can expect Guardians, Runeblades, Illusionist and Mechanologist, right? So Dash, Prism and all the Runeblades and the Guardians. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now maybe this was a bit NK open deuren trappen, but I think a player from my playgroup mentioned it in a perfect fashion. If something was good versus Prism, Guardian and Runeblade, that would be the meta instead of the meta. So just knowing what the meta overlords are doesn't make you strange or clairvoyant. It's what we expect, and these cards or the classes got some cards that are pretty good. Now I'll mention that later in the video. But I did a straw poll also to check because I expected this halfway through myself as well. But I did a straw poll, asked 20 players what they think will be their short list. Now this was the result. The following decks will be in A tier, and the interesting part is that Viserai totally took over from Breyer. Chain's still there somewhere in the middle, but the most votes went out to Bravatar, and the Showstopper, the OG Bravo, and Oldhim. And of course, Prism, which is saw his worst matchup get deleted. So no surprises in this list. Well, maybe that people voted for Azalea and Levia. Baldwin. Actually, that was me. If Prism rises to the top, maybe Baldwin can work as an aggro deck, but a bit more on that later. Because what did Everfest bring for the classes that everybody's expecting already to be strong? Now Guardians got more consistent with their game plan of Rouse the Ancient, and in general, Anatos is always up and big attacks to stop Prism. So they're not losing out, right? Runeblood, OTK, cards that sprang to mind for me, or caught my attention at first, was the invocation of the incantation because it made shard better, and just cards that were general upgrades of other cards that were already being played, but generic, and now Runeblade cards, which makes for better synergies with other parts, and just general non-attack actions which are good for the overall team of Runeblade. So Rebel Runeblood that will bring something for Chain, but also will bring something for Viserai aggro. So those will be cards that will be tested by other players. Now for Illusionist, Shimmer of Silver. Interesting that Auras now can hit for 3. So these are also cards that's going to be played. Now Fractal Replication will be a card that will make judges quiver. I know I will be doing some research, especially with all the Prism mirrors that we can expect. So I will be judging on Proquest, so I will be doing my research and trying to get intricate knowledge of how this card works. If you're going to expect to be playing versus Prism, you need to know how this card works. And Dash, which got T-Bone and some interesting sideboard items, which they can start out, but just have cards in general, which are going to be very good in matchups for them and upping the matchup percentages. Now some honorable mentions. Now to be honest, Levia and Kane are mostly known by Arcbound and Mansan and Baldwin as anti-prism tech, but it's iffy versus a lot of other decks. So maybe if it's your pet deck and you just can't let it go, just play it, but be prepared to play also versus non-prism decks, right? Brian might not be dead yet, and as a Kasai aficionado, the new cards for dual wielding Dorinthia, they might be really interesting. At least the curve got dropped significantly, so it might be interesting. And what I checked in the Discord, because this everything I'm reading here is mostly from the Discords, which I did some research on. Katsu is mostly Blitz hype, which I'm also pretty excited for, but let's see what Benji brings to the Ninja table for Blitz. So, final note, decks that can be used even bigger than that. It's so much value on one card where you can opt, it replaces itself, and you get a quicken token. That's a lot of free real estate. So far, a deck that can use it, only for me, the first one that is Katsu. But Katsu will be having difficulties with Bravatar and Oldin now rocking that Seed Crown and Rampart. So maybe, I don't know, but a really aggressive list might bring something to the table. But if you're trying to get offbeat and bringing some surprises to the current meta, maybe even bigger than that is a card that you can consider. But most of all, proxy up and test. So what I did is I have a ton of cards already printed up and tested. I even have some here with the print screens. And maybe you run Tabletop Simulator. But at least these sheets will be made available. I will make a download link in the descriptions, which is just something that you can print out, scribble the names on, get your yellow, blue and red markers out and highlight it so you can get a nice little pitch area going there. But that's it. Yeah, test. Try it out. Don't get discouraged by people saying that card is bullshit and it's only a sideboard option. They know nothing more than you know, and if you test something, then you will know for sure. So be gracious in defeat and humble in victory, and don't get discouraged by players saying that the card is BS and you shouldn't play it. Test it out yourselves. Thanks for watching and have fun on the Proquest. Can I turn this thing off?